I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're diving into a powerful book, an empowering book. It is called Fearless Wellness. Transform your life one step at a time. It is written by a terrific author by the name of Dr. James Thompson. It is a holistic health guide built for real people ready for real change. Backed by science and grounded in compassion, this book outlines the Fearless model, a life transforming roadmap to improve health with sustainable steps. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him on TV today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today.
I appreciate the invitation.
Great to have you on the show. This is a terrific book. It's going to help anyone who's trying to improve their health and wellness and well-being. Let me ask you this. Can you start by breaking down the Fearless acronym for us and its meaning?
Sure, thank you.
Sure.
Yes, Fearless stands for the 8 pillars, giving you a pathway at least to good health. The F is prioritized as first, and that stands for food, and that's mostly plant-based. I don't like people to get it mixed up with vegan, which is a social justice movement. It's basically 90% or more of the food you select being plant-based. The E is for exercise, which there aren't many people that would go against that being a pillar. We need to move around for not only our heart and lungs, but also for our brain and for the rest of our body. The A is for avoiding toxins. Alcohol and tobacco often first comes to mind, but even those pesky food toxins that find their way into the 60% processed foods we tend to consume here in this country. The R stands for restorative sleep, which many of us don't get, and that's probably my Achilles heel. Getting 8 to 9 hours for adults, 7 to 9 hours, that is important for good health. The L is for lessening stress. That may mean yoga, meditation, mindfulness. The second E is for engaging your mind. Now, I just retired last year, and I'm finding out how important that is. You want to keep your mind exercising, not just the body, so that it can stay healthy and you can ward off diagnoses like Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And then the second, well, the first S is for social energy. And that's where collaborating with others for the common good can lead to some hormone shifts that can be helpful for your health. And the last S, last but not least, is spiritual connectivity, something that grounds us, something that we can call on in those desperate times of need. And so that completes the 8 pillars. And they came about from a number of experts whose shoulders I stand on that have published and that I've listened to on the internet and in various lecture settings. And so it's really an amalgamation of these various principles.
I think it's a great, great theory. And like you said, it's rooted in terrific, proven science, and it's inarguable. You need all of those things. You need social interaction, you need restorative sleep, you need good food that is mostly plant-based, and so on. Restorative sleep, you struggle with it. I probably get my 8 hours a day, but or 8 hours a night, but it's tough to get that deep sleep. Any hints or any prescriptions other than medical ones to get a better night's sleep?
Yes, I go into detail in a chapter dedicated to it, of course,
Hmm.
but sleep hygiene is important. There are
Mhm.
some factors we don't have control over, depending on what's going on outside where we live, or sometimes job stresses and things like that. But when you look from a holistic standpoint, when you're eating healthy, you tend to sleep better. When you don't eat a lot of junk food and don't eat too close to going to bed, that helps. When you create an environment for successful sleep, it helps. Many people fall into a pattern of having their phone next to their bed, next to the bed on the nightstand, or the tablet or laptop open, or the TV on, and you get those rays and those noises that can, although they may not awaken you, they can disrupt your sleep. So there are a number of steps you can take to enhance the likelihood that you'll have a good sleep, making sure the temperature is lower, somewhere around 70. When it's 80 or higher, your body tends to overheat, and if you're under covers, that can disrupt your sleep too. And having kind of a period of relaxation before you sleep, where you dim the lights, you maybe listen to some music, you avoid looking at news, you avoid scrolling through your emails, things that might kind of get you excited. So really toning things down within 30 to 60 minutes of sleep can be helpful. And to stay asleep, for people that awaken before they want to, you really want to analyze what the cause is. And sometimes it's not very clear, but sometimes it's just because of that sugary snack you had an hour or two before bedtime, which now shifts some insulin levels such that by 2 hours into, or 3 or 4 hours into sleep, you're feeling like you're hungry again because you've had an insulin spike and now the sugar's gone down too low, and you may be getting up to use the restroom for whatever reason. For me, I have some prostate issues. I have to get up, and then you're like, oh, I'm a little hungry. I'll have a snack. And next thing you know, you're wide awake. So looking at those different factors and trying to address them can be helpful, as well as exercise. Exercise is really estimated as helping you to sleep.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Exercise is key. Keeping the room dark is key. Keeping those distractions away. Everything is spot on with your sleep hygiene regimen that you have suggested here. Um, Food is so important. Plant-based is so important. You just feel better on it. I'm the kind of guy I could have chicken parmesan with pasta and lots of cheese every night. I like simple guy food. But when I go out, I fantasize about having the chicken parm, and instead I'll get a big salad and I'll have a piece of fish and I'll get some veggies with it. Staying on the straight and narrow when it comes to having mostly a plant-based diet is so beneficial, don't you think?
Absolutely. The rewards are delayed, but they're there and they
Mm.
don't take years. When you convert to a plant-based diet, you do two things. You reduce some of the bad actors that can be disruptive to your gut microbiome, which is billions of research has gone into that now, and it's shown that it's next to the brain, probably the most important headquarters in your body. And in addition, when you eat healthy, you find too that your vision's better, your brain's more clear. And these are because that those SOS, salt, oil, and sugar that densely populates processed food, meats, egg, and dairy, goes down to a very low level. And the nutrients, the micronutrients, the antioxidants, the vitamins, the minerals, all of those go to a higher level. And that spells better health, better sleep, better function, lower risk of dementia, lower risk of cancer, and life is better.
Funny, I had a cheat day the other day. I went to an old hamburger stand near my house and I got a cheeseburger, a big milkshake, and fries. And I never eat that way. I'm going to eat this way today. And it was early, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I figured it'll be fully digested by the time I go to bed. I couldn't sleep all night. It was amazing. Amazing just switching my diet and suddenly I'm awake, I'm belching while I'm sleeping and craziness. So you are what you eat. Be careful what you eat. Eat plants, don't eat animals, avoid animals as much as you can. I think that's your advice, doctor. I think it's great. Older people need to hear this a lot. And its social energy is important because so many older people live isolated lives. Talk to us about why it's so important to have social energy.
Yes, that's one of the tenets that tends to be hard to measure, but we have a better understanding of it now. The importance of not being isolated, the importance of collaborating and interacting with others. There is a hormone very much studied called oxytocin that goes up, which is a healthy, beneficial hormone that impacts your cardiovascular health, can impact your brain health. There's something about those micro expressions that you can't get even
Mm.
on a Zoom meeting, in a Zoom meeting, that when you're with someone, you can get those kinds of impressions that can be healthy. Being able to touch, hug, handshake. There are a number of these different things that add up to you having better health. Your heart rate tends to be more aligned in a social gathering where everybody's kind of more relaxed. Your brain is soothed by it. So there are a number of factors that come into play. And there's also something called the stress response. It's called the CTRA response. It's been studied for the last decade. It stands for conserved translational response to adversity. That's a mouthful, fancy term you can confuse people with. But basically, there are a number of genes that become more active and are bad for you when they're expressed when you're under constant stress. And let's face it, in this country and around the world, there a lot of us are under constant stress. And elderly are under constant stress too. We tend to have more aches and pains. We lose our independence after a while. There's a higher risk of dementia. But all of these factors can be reduced that are involved with that CTRA response by eating plant-based, by getting proper rest, by social interaction, these by exercise. These are all things that tend to converge and help us not only for our heart health, which is the number one killer of man, but also, the dementia risk and cancer risk. So by doing these things in social interaction, you have a more holistic approach towards benefiting your longevity and your health span. Health span is how long you live those years without having lots of procedures, doctor visits, and tons of medications to take.
I heard an interesting quote from another medical profession recently, and he was saying that, we shouldn't so much try to combat disease as we should try to combat aging. That aging is really because you don't see prostate problems in 20-year-olds. You don't see AFib necessarily in 30-year-olds. I mean, these diseases that we get as we're older are diseases, yes, and they do have treatments and cures and so forth, but it's basically part of aging. And it seems like following your fearless method will help us have a younger biological age, right?
Absolutely. There are studies that are proving that. There's a Dr. Michael Greger that published a book called How Not to Age. It's a wonderful compendium that goes in detail on how to not only slow down aging, but possibly reverse aging. Because
Yeah.
we have a chronological age. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't stop Father Time.
Yeah.
But we also have a biological age, of which there are metrics, there are measures that involve DNA, that involve, or DNA products that involve various markers that can give you your biologic age, which may be greater than your chronologic age,
Yeah.
but also can be less than your chronologic age based on diet and lifestyle. So there are ways you can slow down the process, possibly even reverse the process by making changes in your life.
What's your feeling on supplements? I mean, because we hear so much. I take a multivitamin, because I feel like I'm hedging my bets. Nothing super mega. I don't take huge doses of anything. But then you hear things like, Elysium basis that has NAD plus that stops cellular aging. And, for guys my age, we start looking at that stuff like, is it going to really work? What are your thoughts on some of these supplements?
Well, I'm certainly tracking them and studying them. I really believe in evidence-based medicine, evidence-based decisions. And so I'm not totally sold on that NAD yet with respect to other things you can do, many of which are highlighted in Dr. Greger's book. Looks like I'm plugging his book. But basically, I feel that less is more when it comes to supplements, especially when you have engaged or embraced a plant-based lifestyle, because you can get just about everything you need from eating a diverse array of plant-based foods that are minimally processed. And I mean balanced by the greens, the various leafy greens and the rainbow color. They all, you probably hear that a lot, this rainbow color, but it makes sense. It's nature's rainbow, and that's where all the antioxidants are in those green greens and those orange carrots, in those purple to blueberries. They are teeming with micronutrients that can help you collectively, synergistically reduce your risk for disease. Because with age, based on the standard American diet, comes disease. And you're right. there's too much treatment and focus on disease instead of prevention and root cause. So if you eat a diverse array of plants, you can get most of what you need. The essentials for a plant-based follower is to have vitamin B12. You should not go without that. Truth be told, if you're over 50, whether you're on a plant-based diet or not, you should be having B12 supplement because you don't strip that B12 off of foods as well as you get older due to the acidity, reduced acidity in the stomach. And as well, if you're on certain medications like metformin or these acid reducing agents like omeprazole, Prilosec, those types of drugs, they reduce your absorption of B12. So if you're of the 50 or older, you should really be aware of that anyway. But especially if you're plant-based, animals don't make B12. They get it from the dirt and bugs and stuff they happen to consume. And so when we consume them, you may get B12. But since you won't be consuming them, B12 is essential for health of your blood vessels and nerves. The other one is vitamin D. Since a lot of us don't spend hours in the sun, I think we should take those supplements. It's very well established how much we should take them. And B12 and vitamin D are levels you should have annually checked. If your doctor's not doing it routinely, you should request it. Other than that, looking out for iodine because I'm a salt restrictor too, and we usually don't have thyroid problems in this country since 1920, and they started iodizing, Morton started iodizing the salt. But if you're doing the pink salt, Himalayan salt, and some of those other salts, you might find that you're not getting enough iodine if that's what you're confined to. So you want to watch that. Sea vegetables like seaweed and cambu and wakame, they have iodine in them. You don't have to have too much of it, but if that's not your cup of tea, you might want to try an iodine supplement if you're not using table salt. Uh, Other than that, since both of my parents had dementia and they died from complications of it, I'm very sensitive to that too. So
Yeah.
I do take some omega-3 supplement, algae-based. I prefer not the fish-based because I am a vegan also. But also it can get rancid and we don't often know how long it's on the shelves. I think it's healthier to get the algae-based omega-3. Everything else, I follow the research. Some people take creatine. I'm kind of on the fence with that for that's mostly older people or people trying to build muscle. But I'm not, I'm tracking that NAD and there's some other ones in that category. And who knows, a year from now, I could have a different stance on it. But I think right now I'm on the fence.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also a little bit worried about things that excite your metabolism or promote cell growth too much because it might promote this growth of cells that you don't want promoted, like cancer cells. So, you have to be a little bit leery when dealing with all this stuff. Like you said, wait for the evidence-backed science. The name of the book we've been talking about today, and it is a wonderful book. It's simple, it's clear, it's very easy to understand, but it's loaded with lots of great information, just like you've heard from the doctor today. It is called Fearless Wellness, Transform Your Life One Step at a Time. It is your guide to reclaiming your health and living with purpose, energy, and balance. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate your insight, your wisdom, and your knowledge. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.